Hey everyone, Tin Man here, and today I'm going to go over the top 3 items in each tier of Dota Underlords. Remember that items are always contextual. Sometimes you may want to pick an item that is not on this list because it fills a need or counters some of your opponents. But in general, these are going to be the strongest options, and if you have one of the types of units that use these items well, you should strongly consider picking them. Within each tier, they are roughly in order of how strong I think they are, but in most cases the power level between them is pretty close. First up, in Tier 1, Ogre Cap. This hat gives so much potential power. It grants the powerful Bloodbound Alliance, which dramatically empowers your DPS units. It is easily the strongest alliance in the early game, and even if you end up cutting Bloodbound in the late game, it is still worth it for those early wins. But it does unlock a lot of composition building potential, allowing you to splash Bloodbound where it otherwise would be impossible. If you do pick this up, then Legion Commander and her Champion Alliance become a very high priority to try to work into your composition. The best units for this item are heavy damage dealers like Luna, Chaos Knight, and Windranger in the early game, and then Mirana later on. They either have fast attack speeds to take advantage of the bonus attack damage, or other modifiers like Demon or Luna's Glaive effect. Next up, Chainmail. This item is just a super solid item at all stages of the game. Every build needs some sort of frontliner, and Chainmail is just a great item for anyone who is standing in front and taking hits. The lack of strong armor items in later tiers also makes this more appealing than the damage-based Tier 1 items, since you can pick up damage easily later, but good defensive items are rare. Best units are pretty straightforward. Put them on your frontliners like Abaddon, Pudge, or Treant Protector, anybody who's going to be taking hits. Rounding out the top 3 in Tier 1, we have Voidstone. I really like this item a lot, although it's fairly specific in its usage, certainly compared to the previous 2 items, which go into most builds. Voidstone is best on units who have a low cooldown but a high mana cost. This means that they are going to be mana limited, so Voidstone lets them cast on cooldown without delay, without waiting for that extra mana. Units like Necrophos, Venomancer, Viper, and Dazzle all fit this build. Keeper of Light can also work with it since he gains mana so slowly and you really want to get his mana quickly to cast that big powerful Illuminate ability. Units that don't want this item are ones like Bristleback, Batrider, and Storm Spirit, who do have a low cooldown, but they also have low mana costs, so they don't really need the extra mana gain from this item. Getting into Tier 2, Stonehall Cloak is my pick for the best item here. Like Chainmail, almost every composition will have some melee units up front taking hits, and Stonehall Cloak lets them take a lot of hits if they can stack it up. While Chainmail goes on almost any frontliner, Cloak is better on more damage-focused frontliners who can get kills like Chaos Knight, Beastmaster, or Bristleback. And of course, Stonehall items are great on Bloodseeker, who racks up a ton of last-hit kills thanks to the Deadeye Alliance. Specifically, all of these units are early game units, so they have time to rack up kills. Late game units generally will not use this very well since they don't have time to get as many kills. They just don't have them for that many rounds of the game. Next, Desolator. In any composition other than maybe mages, Desolator provides a huge damage increase to your team by shredding the armor of the focus of your attacks. Any composition that is looking to deal physical damage will find this useful at all stages of the game. It's especially strong on Legion Commander to help her win duels, Medusa, as the split shot will apply the debuff to all of the targets hit, Ember Spirit, whose Sleight of Fist will also apply this to every opponent hit, and somebody like Windranger, who will frequently be swapping targets thanks to her Vigilant Alliance. Rounding out the top 3 in Tier 2 is the Stonehall Pike. The Pike, much like the Stonehall Cloak, is a great on early game units who rack up a lot of kills. Luckily, there are a good number of high damage dealing carries who can get a lot of kills, like Luna, Tusk, and Windranger. Of course, once again, Bloodseeker is crazy good with this as well. A close 4th in Tier 2, if I had to include a 4th one, would be Vanguard, which is a great defensive option much like Chainmail. On to Tier 3, Silver Edge is definitely the best item in this tier. It just does so much. It gives bonus attack speed, health, and breaks the target to disable their passives. The break effect is particularly useful against the very popular Bloodseeker, since all of his power comes from his passive effects, but it's also strong against most opposing builds in one way or another. It's at its best on units who are fairly strong and they can hit pretty hard, so they can benefit from the attack speed, but also from somebody who will be in the thick of combat, so the bonus health is nice, such as Lycan and Templar Assassin. Ranged units like Drow and Mirana can also make use of it to give them a little bit more survivability against, say, jumping assassins or stray AoE effects, and then they can safely apply the break effect from range. After Silver Edge, the Tier 3 items become a lot more situational. Skullbasher is strong in the current meta, which has a lot of fast attacking hunters, so they have a lot of chances to trigger its bonus damage and stun. A 1.5 second stun may not sound like much, but in a fight it can easily mean the difference between letting an opponent cast their spell or bursting them down before they have a chance to finish that cast. Medusa has a chance to trigger this on every split shot, so it is a great item on her. Same with Ember Spirit's Sleight of Fist if you're going for spirits or assassins. Barring those, just any fast attack speed unit like Mirana or Juggernaut will do. This Tier 3 list was the hardest one to compile for sure, since so many of the items are situational, but in the current meta, there are a lot of hunters that are very strong, so I put Crown of Antlers here in the 3rd spot. But if the meta shifts, this item could easily drop out of the top 3. Obviously, you want to use this to enable the Hunter Alliance, otherwise it's not going to be very useful. Even if it gives you an excess Hunter though, and does not complete another tier of the Alliance, it can still function to increase the attack speed of whoever is wearing it by letting them multi-attack just like a Hunter. This makes it great on any hard-hitting carry, especially Savages, since they stack the bonus attack damage, or on somebody like Troll Warlord who wants to stack up Fervor with all those bonus attacks. At the top of Tier 4, we have VLADMIR'S Offering. This item does it all. Bonus damage, check. Bonus armor, check. And lifesteal, check. Oh, and it applies it to almost all of your units. Yeah, this item is just crazy good, and in most builds, other than maybe mages who don't have too much value for the lifesteal or the damage, you will definitely want one of these. The aura from 2 of them do not stack, so picking up a second copy of VLADMIR'S Offering is not nearly as valuable. This should be placed on a unit who will be at or near the front line, who will likely survive for quite a while in combat. Lone Druid can be placed right behind your frontliners, and is generally one of the last surviving units in most fights. Tidehunter and Axe are crazy tanky, especially with this item, and Lycan also has quite a bit of staying power as well. Next, Refresher Orb. This item is amazing on anyone with a highly impactful ability. Lone Druid is by far the most common unit to use it, and the additional Spirit Bearer is just far too good to pass up. Other than Lone Druid, Tidehunter and Sand King use it to provide a lot of stuns and really lock down the opposing board for an extended period of time. Some players like to use this item on Keeper of the Light, since obviously his ability deals a ton of damage, but I'm not so sold on it. Keeper of Light has a very long channel time, meaning that by the time he gets his mana up initially, and then channels and gets his first cast, and then gains mana and channels a second one, I just feel like that's going to be too late into the fight. But it is worth mentioning, even if I think there are others who use this item a bit better. Moonshard is one of the best raw DPS items in the game. Plus 80% attack speed is just so strong in the later stages of the game when any carry is already hitting very hard. Not a lot to talk about here, just place it on your big carry and watch the damage pile up. Luna is a great example of a simple carry, but other units who can use the bonus attack speed to stack some ability faster, such as Lycan with Savages, Troll Warlord with Fervor, and Slark with his Essence Shift. That does it for Tier 4. Next up is KADEN'S Blade. Haha, pulled a fast one on you. This is actually the top 4 items of Tier 4, since really there's just so many good items in this tier, and I really couldn't exclude any of them. They're just all so good, and honestly, Butterfly was so close to making this list as well. KADEN'S Blade is not quite as good in every situation though. It's at its best against opposing tanky compositions, ones with warriors, knights, or brawnies. But with how popular those alliances are right now, this is generally going to be a safe bet. If your opponents have a lot of, say, mages or assassins who aren't very tanky, then you can probably skip this item. It goes best on Medusa, whose split shots will deal massively increased damage thanks to this effect, but otherwise it's fine on really any fast attacking unit, preferably hunters. Okay, on to Tier 5 for real this time. BLOODTHORN is a great all-purpose item. Every opponent is going to have some important spells that they want to cast, and this just shuts them down hard. It's especially effective against opposing Tidehunters or other units who you know will be placed front and center, and then can be completely denied by this item. It's best used on an attack damage dealer like Luna or Mirana, since it still adds plus 70 attack damage. Alternatively, it's also good on very evasive units like Weaver and Storm Spirit, who will survive late into the fight so that you can get multiple uses out of it since it only has a 10-second cooldown. Next up is Divine Rapier, a real all-or-nothing type item. It is by far the highest DPS item in the game, but you better not lose with it, otherwise you'll lose it. If you're very high on life total in the late game, do not pick this item because you basically give up any advantage that you may have had with a single loss. So your life total advantage becomes meaningless. But if you're already low on life and one loss is going to probably eliminate you anyway, then by all means grab this and throw it on your carry and hopefully win the game with it. It goes best on any attacking carry, but especially Medusa and Luna, who benefit dramatically from the bonus attack damage, but in a pinch, it can go on any carry like Troll Warlord or Faceless Void. And finally, we've got Radiance. Just like Tier 3 though, I really didn't feel like I had a good third option for this tier. BLOODTHORN and Divine Rapier are just so much better than any of the other options. Radiance is fine though, it's very generally applicable, but it's nothing that flashy. It provides some constant magic damage tick, and also a bit of survivability in terms of the mischance, but you know, it doesn't really excite me. It's not as big and impactful as the first two. It's best on any tanky unit who will be close to the enemies and also survive a while in fights, like Axe or Tidehunter. And that does it for the top 3 or top 4 items in each tier. While this is not a full tier list, it should get you started in the right direction, especially with item rerolls. You should often have the choice of one of these items. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know what your favorite items are down in the comments below. If you like this type of content and want to see more of it, please do consider supporting me by joining the channel by clicking that big join button down below. You get awesome perks like early access to guides like this one. Special thanks to my Lord tier channel member, John Vise. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.